of helicopter blades echoed through the skies as the shield transport descended toward the dense, fog-shrouded expanse of Skull Island. Bruce Banner sat quietly in the corner of the cabin, poring over a tablet, displaying scans of the island's unique geological makeup. Next to him sat Natasha Romanoff, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon as the copter began its descent. "You've been quiet," Natasha said, glancing at Bruce. "Nervous?" "Skull Island's got a reputation," Bruce replied, without looking up. "And gamma radiation showing up in the middle of nowhere? That's not normal. If Hydra was messing around here, it's something serious." "This isn't Hydra," Natasha said, her voice measured. "It's Monarch, and they're not exactly sharing all their secrets with us." Bruce sighed. "Great. Another shadowy organization playing with forces they don't understand." The helicopter touched down on a makeshift clearing carved out by Monarch's advance team. As the group disembarked, they were greeted by a tall, stern-faced Monarch scientist. Dr. Ellen Graves extended a hand to Bruce, her tone curt and professional. "Dr. Banner, Agent Romanoff, welcome to Skull Island. I wish I could say it's safe, but, well, you'll see." The group trekked into the dense jungle, their path illuminated by the dim glow of portable lamps. The sounds of distant animal calls and the rustling of unseen creatures kept the team on edge. Bruce marveled at the sheer scale of the flora, noting plants and trees larger than anything he'd encountered before. "This place feels prehistoric," Bruce muttered, taking readings with a handheld scanner. The gamma levels were unlike anything he'd seen, spiking in erratic patterns that defied explanation. "Prehistoric and deadly," Natasha added, her hand resting on her sidearm. Suddenly, the ground trembled and the team froze. A low, guttural roar rumbled through the jungle, shaking leaves loose from the canopy. The sound sent a chill through the group, and the soldiers accompanying them tightened their grips on their weapons. "Please tell me that was just the wind," one of the soldiers muttered. "It's not," Dr. Graves replied grimly. "That's Kong." The team pressed forward cautiously, eventually reaching a rocky outcrop overlooking a valley. There, in the moonlight, they saw him, King Kong, towering over the jungle, his massive form silhouetted against the sky. He was tearing apart a tree to use as a club, his movements deliberate and powerful. The sight left Bruce and the others in stunned silence. "Is he?" Bruce began, struggling to find the words. "The locals call him a protector," Dr. Graves said, "but he's also a king, the top of the food chain here." As the team watched, Kong turned his massive head toward the horizon and roared, a sound that reverberated through the earth itself. "Why does it feel like he's warning us about something?" Natasha asked. Before anyone could respond, Bruce's scanner beeped erratically. The gamma levels had spiked to dangerous levels. Dr. Graves pointed toward a cave at the base of a nearby mountain, her face pale. "That's the source. Whatever's in there, that's what we came to find." The team approached the cave with caution, the oppressive energy thickening the air as they ventured inside. The walls were lined with glowing green crystals, pulsating with faint energy. In the center of the cavern was a large, jagged formation, radiating gamma energy, like a heartbeat. "This is it," Bruce said, his voice tinged with awe. "The source of the readings. It's like a natural reactor." Dr. Graves began taking samples while Bruce studied the formation. Natasha stood watch, her instincts on high alert. Something about the cave felt wrong, like they weren't supposed to be there. Suddenly, one of the soldiers slipped, dropping a piece of equipment. The sound echoed through the cavern, and the unstable crystals began to hum loudly. A crack formed in the central formation, and energy erupted in a violent surge. "Get down," Bruce yelled. But it was too late. The gamma explosion sent shockwaves through the cave, collapsing parts of the ceiling. Bruce's body convulsed as the radiation triggered his transformation. His skin turned green, his muscles expanded, and the Hulk emerged with a deafening roar. The Hulk shielded the team from falling debris, his massive frame absorbing the brunt of the destruction. Natasha called out to him, trying to calm him down, but the gamma energy had made him more volatile than usual. He let out another roar, shaking the jungle outside. The commotion drew Kong's attention. The Titan moved toward the cave, his immense form crashing through the trees. As he reached the entrance, the Hulk burst through, his eyes blazing with unrestrained anger. The two Titans locked eyes for the first time, their growls rumbling like distant thunder. Kong, seeing the Hulk as a threat to his territory, beat his chest in a show of dominance. The Hulk, driven by instinct, responded with a bellowing roar and charged. The ground shook as the two collided, their blows echoing across the island. Kong's agility and strength matched the Hulk's raw power, their fight tearing through the jungle. Trees splintered like matchsticks, and the ground cracked under their immense weight. Natasha and the team watched from a distance, helpless against the sheer scale of the battle. Dr. Graves muttered, "We've made a terrible mistake." The fight ended as suddenly as it began, with Kong delivering a thunderous blow that sent the Hulk tumbling into a river. Exhausted but victorious, Kong roared triumphantly before retreating into the jungle. The Hulk, now Bruce again, was pulled from the water by Natasha. As he coughed and shivered, he looked around at the devastation. "What have we done?" he whispered, his voice heavy with regret. The team regrouped, their mission now more complicated than ever. Between the Gamma anomaly and Kong's wrath, Skull Island was proving to be far more dangerous than any of them had anticipated. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the shattered jungle, illuminating the aftermath of the battle between Hulk and King Kong. Trees lay in splintered heaps, and a wide swath of the forest had been flattened by the titanic clash. Bruce Banner, his body aching from the transformation, sat quietly on a fallen log, his head in his hands. Natasha Romanoff approached cautiously, carrying a canteen of water. "You okay?" Natasha asked, handing him the canteen. Bruce nodded, his voice heavy with regret. "I lost control. Again." Natasha crouched beside him, her tone measured. "You saved us, Bruce. But Kong doesn't see it that way. We're in his territory, and now he sees you as a threat." Bruce took a long drink before responding. "It's not just Kong. That gamma burst. It did something to the island. The energy spike could destabilize the entire ecosystem." Natasha stood, scanning the tree line. "And now we've got an angry Hulk, an angry Kong, and an island full of monsters to deal with. Great." The group reconvened at their makeshift base camp, hastily set up amidst the ruins of the jungle. Dr. Ellen Graves pored over her readings, her face pale as she tried to make sense of the data. "The gamma levels are spreading," Graves explained, pointing to a holographic map. That explosion acted like a pulse, radiating energy throughout the island. It's disrupting everything, drawing creatures to the surface that have been dormant for centuries. "Creatures like Kong," Bruce muttered. "Or worse," Graves added grimly. "If this continues, the entire island could collapse under the weight of its own instability." Natasha crossed her arms. "What's your solution?" Graves hesitated. "We need to neutralize the gamma source. Stabilize it before it does any more damage." Bruce frowned. "That means going back to the cave." "Exactly," Graves replied. "But with Kong out there, it's not going to be easy." Meanwhile, deep in the heart of Skull Island, Kong prowled his territory, his wounds still fresh from the fight. The gamma explosion had unsettled the balance of the island, and Kong's instincts told him that the Hulk was the cause. He moved cautiously, his massive hands brushing aside trees. As he surveyed the damage, his keen eyes caught movement in the distance. A herd of smaller creatures fleeing from something larger. Kong's nostrils flared as he caught the scent of a predator. A massive skull crawler, awakened by the gamma energy, slithered from the shadows. Its beady eyes glinted with hunger as it scanned the jungle. Kong let out a warning roar, his chest puffing out as he prepared to defend his territory once again. The skullcrawler lunged, and Kong met it head-on in a brutal clash of claws and fists. The battle raged across the jungle, the skullcrawler's serpentine body coiling around Kong, trying to crush him. With a mighty effort, Kong pried himself free and delivered a devastating blow, sending the creature retreating into the shadows. Kong roared in triumph, but his gaze lingered on the jungle, his instincts telling him that more danger lay ahead. Back at the camp, the SHIELD team prepared to return to the cave. Armed with gamma-neutralizing equipment, they packed their supplies and mapped out a route to avoid Kong's known territory. Bruce, however, remained uneasy. "We're not just dealing with Kong anymore," Bruce said, as he loaded a scanner into his pack. That explosion woke up something else. Something big. Natasha tightened her gear. "Bigger than Kong?" Bruce nodded. "Much bigger." The team set out, their progress slow, as they navigated the treacherous terrain. The jungle seemed more alive than before, with strange creatures emerging from the shadows to watch them pass. The air was thick with tension, and even Natasha's calm demeanor was tinged with unease. As they neared the cave, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A low, guttural roar echoed through the jungle, and Bruce's heart sank. Kong had found them. "Move," Natasha shouted as the team scattered into the trees. Kong emerged from the foliage, his massive frame casting a shadow over the group. His eyes locked onto Bruce, and he let out a deafening roar. "Stay back," Bruce yelled, his voice shaking. "I don't want to hurt you." Kong charged, his fists slamming into the ground as Bruce transformed into the Hulk. The two titans collided once again, their blows shaking the jungle as trees splintered and the earth cracked beneath them. The team scrambled to avoid the destruction, but Dr. Graves was caught in the chaos. A falling tree pinned her leg, and she cried out in pain. Natasha rushed to her side, using all her strength to free her as Kong and Hulk continued their battle. Hulk, now more in control, fought defensively, trying to push Kong back without causing unnecessary damage. But Kong's fury was relentless, his attacks driven by instinct and territorial aggression. Their fight tore through the jungle, drawing the attention of nearby predators. The battle reached a crescendo as both titans found themselves at the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean. Kong roared, raising a massive fist, but Hulk grabbed his arm mid-swing, stopping the blow. For a moment, the two stared at each other, their growls subsiding. Bruce, deep within the Hulk's mind, reached out to Kong in his own way, his body language less aggressive. Kong hesitated, sensing the change. The tension hung thick in the air as the two titans slowly backed away from each other. Natasha and the team watched from a safe distance, their hearts pounding. "Did they just call a truce?" one soldier asked, incredulous. "Not exactly," Natasha replied, "but it's a start." As Kong disappeared into the jungle, the Hulk turned back to the team. His green eyes glowed faintly, but his posture was calm. He gestured toward the cave, his guttural voice rumbling, "Go." The team regrouped and pressed forward, their mission far from over. But now they knew. The battle for Skull Island had only just begun. The air inside the cave was heavy with gamma energy, the glowing crystals casting eerie shadows across the walls. Bruce Banner, still in his Hulk form but under control, stood at the entrance, his massive frame blocking out the light from the jungle outside. Natasha Romanoff led the rest of the team deeper inside, their steps cautious as they approached the source of the radiation. "We have to stabilize this thing before it destabilizes the entire island," Dr. Ellen Graves said, her voice shaking as she examined the gamma core. The central formation, jagged and pulsating, seemed to hum with life, each beat echoing through the cavern like a heartbeat. Natasha glanced over her shoulder at the Hulk. "You good?" Hulk gave a slow, deliberate nod. "Good, for now." As the team began setting up their equipment, the ground suddenly trembled. A low, guttural growl echoed through the cave, sending chills down their spines. Natasha's hand instinctively went to her sidearm. "What was that?" Graves whispered, her face pale. "Something's coming," Natasha said, her voice steady but tense. The sound grew louder, accompanied by the unmistakable scrape of claws against stone. Emerging from the shadows was the massive skull crawler that had tangled with Kong earlier, but this one was different, larger, its eyes glowing faintly with the same gamma energy radiating from the core. "Oh no," Bruce muttered, his green eyes narrowing. "It's been affected by the gamma explosion." The skullcrawler roared, its serpentine body twisting as it lunged at the team. Hulk stepped forward, meeting the beast head-on with a thunderous punch that echoed through the cavern. The impact sent shockwaves through the air, but the skullcrawler was unfazed, its jaws snapping dangerously close to Hulk's face. "Get out of here," Hulk bellowed, his voice deep and commanding. Natasha grabbed Graves and the rest of the team, leading them toward the cave's entrance. "We'll hold the perimeter. Banner, don't get yourself killed." Hulk didn't respond, his focus entirely on the skullcrawler. The two titans clashed violently, their battle shaking the cave to its core. Hulk used his immense strength to grapple with the creature, but the skullcrawler's speed and ferocity kept him on the defensive. Outside the cave, Natasha and the team set up a defensive position, knowing the battle inside would likely draw other predators. Sure enough, the jungle came alive with movement, smaller skullcrawlers and other aggressive creatures, their instincts heightened by the gamma energy. Natasha fired her pistols with precision, taking down the smaller threats as the soldiers formed a protective line around the cave. "Hold the line," Natasha shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Back inside, Hulk was beginning to struggle. The skullcrawler's gamma-enhanced strength gave it an edge, its tail whipping around and slamming into Hulk with bone-crushing force. The beast pinned Hulk against the cavern wall, its jaws snapping inches from his face. With a roar of defiance, Hulk grabbed the creature's jaws and pried them apart, using his raw power to force it back. He slammed the skullcrawler into the ground, the impact sending shards of gamma crystal flying through the air. The crystal's energy surged, causing the core to pulse dangerously. Outside, Natasha saw the faint glow intensify, and her stomach sank. Whatever they're doing in there, it's destabilizing the core. Graves looked up from her equipment, panic etched on her face. If the core goes critical, it could level the entire island. Natasha made a split-second decision. "I'm going in." She ran into the cave, dodging falling debris and blasts of gamma energy. As she made her way toward the center, she arrived just in time to see Hulk deliver a devastating blow to the skullcrawler, sending it crashing into the core. The creature writhed in agony as the energy overwhelmed it, its body disintegrating in a burst of light. "Hulk!" Natasha shouted, covering her face from the explosion. "The core is going to blow!" Hulk turned, his massive form silhouetted against the glowing core. He lumbered over to Natasha, his expression grim. "What? Do?" Natasha pointed to the stabilizing equipment Graves had left behind. "We need to shut it down or it's going to destroy everything." Hulk moved quickly, following Natasha's instructions as she guided him through the process. Despite his size and strength, he handled the delicate equipment with surprising care, his focus unshakable. Together, they managed to stabilize the core, its glow dimming to a faint pulse. "Is it done?" Hulk rumbled, his voice low. Natasha nodded, breathing heavily. "Yeah, it's done." As they exited the cave, the team regrouped, their relief palpable. The jungle was eerily quiet, the creatures that had been drawn to the gamma energy retreating back into the shadows. But their relief was short-lived. The ground trembled once more, and the unmistakable roar of King Kong echoed through the jungle. The Titan emerged from the trees, his massive frame battered but imposing. His eyes locked onto Hulk, and he let out a warning growl. "Not again," Natasha muttered, raising her weapon. Hulk stepped forward, his hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. "No, fight," he said, his voice calm. Kong hesitated, his growl subsiding as he regarded the green giant. The two titans stood face to face, the tension thick in the air. Finally, Kong turned and walked away, his massive form disappearing into the jungle. "What just happened?" Graves asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "They came to an understanding," Natasha said, lowering her weapon. "Let's hope it lasts." As the team packed up their equipment and prepared to leave the island, Bruce, now back in human form, stood at the edge of the jungle watching the horizon. "He's not just a beast," Bruce said quietly. "He's a protector." Natasha placed a hand on his shoulder. "So are you, Bruce, don't forget that." The team boarded their helicopter, leaving the island behind. But as they flew away, the camera lingered on the jungle, where the faint glow of gamma energy still pulsed beneath the surface, hinting at the challenges yet to come. The helicopter blades hummed overhead as the team soared above Skull Island, its vast expanse stretching endlessly below. Bruce Banner sat quietly near the edge of the cabin, his eyes fixed on the receding jungle. Natasha Romanoff leaned against the side, her gaze on Bruce. The weight of their escape hung heavily in the air, but the mission wasn't over yet. "We stabilized the Gamma Core," Natasha said, breaking the silence. "But that energy is still there. Kong, the Skull Crawlers, the island itself, this place is a ticking time bomb." Bruce nodded, his voice subdued. "We didn't fix the problem, we just delayed it. If Monarch or anyone else keeps poking at this place, it could end badly for everyone." Dr. Ellen Graves approached, her face pale but resolute. "That's why we need to seal the cave, permanently. If the Gamma Core is left unchecked, it'll only cause more destruction." Natasha glanced at Bruce. "What do you think?" Bruce hesitated, his mind racing. "If we collapse the cave, we'll trap the gamma energy underground. It could stabilize the island's ecosystem, or it could destabilize everything permanently." "Do we have another option?" Natasha asked. Bruce shook his head. "Not unless we want Hydra, or anyone else, to get their hands on it." The decision was made. The helicopter circled back toward the island, landing near the base of the mountain where the cave was located. The team disembarked, moving quickly to set up explosives to seal the entrance. The jungle around them was eerily quiet, as if the island itself was holding its breath. As the final charges were placed, the ground began to tremble. The team froze as a deep, resonant roar echoed through the jungle. King Kong emerged from the trees, his massive frame casting a shadow over the mountain. He moved toward the cave, his steps slow and deliberate. "He knows what we're doing," Natasha said, her voice low, "and he doesn't like it." Kong stopped near the entrance, his eyes fixed on the team. Bruce stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "He's not our enemy," Bruce said. "He's trying to protect his home." Natasha watched as Kong growled softly, his gaze flicking between Bruce and the cave. "So, what do we do? Talk him into letting us blow it up?" Bruce sighed. "I'll handle it." Before anyone could stop him, Bruce began to transform. His body expanded, muscles bulging as his skin turned green. The Hulk stood tall, his expression calm but firm. He approached Kong slowly, their massive frames standing almost eye to eye. The two titans stared at each other, their earlier conflict still fresh in their minds. Hulk pointed to the cave, then to the jungle. As if trying to convey the danger, Kong growled low in his throat, his posture tense but less aggressive. "They're communicating," Graves whispered, watching in awe. Kong eventually stepped back, his massive shoulders relaxing. The message had been received. "He's letting us do it," Natasha said, her voice tinged with relief. The team detonated the charges, and the cave entrance collapsed in a thunderous explosion. Rocks tumbled down, sealing the gamma core deep beneath the earth. The ground trembled briefly before settling, and the jungle seemed to exhale. Kong watched from a distance, his gaze lingering on the now sealed cave. With a low, mournful roar, he turned and lumbered back into the jungle, disappearing into the shadows. Bruce reverted to his human form, his body weary from the transformation. Natasha handed him a canteen of water, her expression softening. "You did good, Banner," she said. Bruce took a long drink, his eyes fixed on the jungle. "Let's hope it holds." As the team prepared to leave Skull Island, they paused to take in the view one last time. The island was still, its towering trees and jagged cliffs bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. "We've done all we can," Natasha said, as the helicopter lifted off. "The rest is up to Kong." Bruce nodded, his gaze distant. "He's the protector this place needs. We just have to hope the world leaves him alone." Weeks later, in a shadowy Monarch facility, scientists examined data from the expedition. One screen displayed gamma readings still emanating faintly from Skull Island, while another showed a map with similar readings in other remote locations. A high-ranking official entered the room, his face obscured by the dim light. "Prepare an expedition to the next site," he ordered, "and increase security around Skull Island. We can't let anyone else interfere."